but her activism started a long time before that. She began working on climate issues when she was in high school, when she got involved at the age of 14 as a freshman in a campaign opposing a coal train in Oakland. You know, we have similar issues here, where they want to transport dirty, ugly, dangerous, toxic materials through our communities. And at the age of 14, she organized a group. It's called the Bay Area Youth for Climate Action at the age of 14, and she has gone on to be a fellow of the Sunrise Movement on the national level. I need to make sure I get this right because her mother will correct me if I don't, or maybe she will, because I think Rose has a very strong will and mind of her own, which is just what we need to keep fighting against those powers, those forces that have all the money, the big corporate money that doesn't want to fix things. It wants to perpetuate them. And Rose understood at an early age that if we're going to make change, you got to step up. And so those of us from the other side of the spectrum, from the age side of the spectrum, welcome and honor and are delighted in making sure that the future is a future where voices like those of Rose can be heard, demanding climate accountability from politicians, and taking a sabbatical, by the way, from her university education to advocate for immediate policy changes to address climate. It's passion. We saw it with Susie, we're seeing it with Rose. It's a passion we all, I believe, share, but it's the kind of passion that Rose has seen fit to operate from. We got her back to UCSB because she's going to finish that degree before she becomes president. I mean, not that anyone's pushing this, but it's this kind of energy, this kind of youth, this kind of enthusiasm that is what we are honoring here today. Rose Strauss, our environmental hero by the Community Environmental Council, a California gem. Thank you, Rose, and the pulpit is yours.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much, everyone. I would like to thank everyone at the Community Environmental Council for this honor, and everyone in this community for being such strong allies in this fight. While I appreciate the recognition for this award, I am accepting this on behalf of everyone at Sunrise Movement who work day in and day out to address the climate crisis. Working as a part of this movement has been one of the most impactful experiences of my life, and I want to share a little bit about how I got there. In my first quarter of college, I wasn't the person you see standing here today. In the Bay Area, organizing was my whole life, and coming to UCSB was extremely difficult. I had to start from scratch. I started dealing with anxiety that I never knew I had. It started to take over my life to the point where I would go days without sleeping. It seemed that the only places I went were the library and my room. My passion for stopping climate change went from my biggest priority, my lifeblood, to something that I used to do. I was tired, depressed, and I really had given up. But then the fire started in Santa Barbara. The first emergency alert came after 3 nights of no sleep. I was lying awake in my bed at 2 in the morning when I was shaken by the blaring sound of an emergency alert from my phone, telling us to evacuate immediately. I struggled to get down from my top bunk in the pitch black, grabbed my school bag, and was ready to leave. I was frantically crying and I was exhausted. The RAs came into our room and told us we had to stay because UCSB wouldn't burn because it was surrounded by the airport and a wetland. So with the fire on the horizon, we climbed back into our beds and most of us fell asleep. But for me, sleep never came. The days after were filled with smoke, emergency alerts, and confusion. I had this tremendous anxiety, the anxiety of the fires, the anxiety of the 5 nights without sleep. and the unnerving anxiety of every time I heard the jarring sound of the emergency alert coming through my phone, knowing that it was because of climate change, and knowing that I was still in school with my nose in my textbook, doing nothing about it. Eventually, school was canceled because the air quality got so bad. And I went home and I was so tired and so anxious that I couldn't get out of bed for days. But 2 weeks later, when I joined Sunrise Movement, and I decided to take 6 months to move across the country to advocate full-time for the midterm elections and make sure climate change was a political priority, I did not feel an ounce of anxiety. I was not worried about taking time off of school. I was not worried about moving across the country to be with complete strangers because I knew it was something that I had to do. Less than 2 years after joining Sunrise, we have become the talk of the nation. No politician can claim to represent the everyday American unless they promise not to take money from the fossil fuel industry and they are a champion for the Green New Deal. We have the power in this movement of thousands of young people to be a bold political and social force in this country to build a world that we know is possible. And with the guidance of many here today, we have started right here in Santa Barbara. I know that come this summer and fall, more likely than not, I will again wake up to an emergency alert. But this time, I won't be crying. This time, I won't feel alone. We in Santa Barbara won't be the only ones awakened in the night by our phones. I can already imagine the screens of thousands of people all over the nations lighting up, becoming ready to organize, ready to get to work, and make sure that come 12 years, our plan to stop this crisis will become a reality. Thank you.
The floor is hot. This woman is on a mission, and now I think you understand why she received